Good morning, friends. Welcome back to Astrology Today and Tarot. My name is Mel Rose. This is the Tarot portion in the second half of my daily astrology vlog, which you can check out on my other channel, Astrology Today with Mel Rose. Over there, you will find a description of today's astrology as I have spelled it out here. Here, I will discuss the card that sits on the side of the page, and then I'll play another tarot card that, in the context of the day's astrology, may just give us something more to think about. So let's get into it. The card that currently sits on the side of the page is the Seven of Swords, and it is here for one more day because it corresponds in astrology with the final 10 days or the third decan of the sun's transit here in the land of Aquarius. Aquarius is an air sign, and swords represent air element symbolism in tarot, and air element symbolism is very much about the logic and the rationale, those things we think, plan, and communicate, how we go about sharing ourselves in the world, sharing our best ideas and our thoughts and our feelings and all of that stuff. So here we come to the Seven of Swords, and we see a little bit of deception or trickery at play. And, you know, I've come to realize that there's an aspect to this that is really about, you know, telling lies and being deceptive, because you see this person stealing, but they're making off with some thoughts, words, and communications. That's what the swords represent. So when we're doing that, we're really sort of telling lies or misrepresenting ourselves is also a very likely thing here. Just sort of pretending that we have credentials that we don't have, you know, saying that we were in places that we were not, and basically, you know, qualifying ourselves for different situations and circumstances with qualifications that are not ours, right? So that's the Seven of Swords. Sometimes we feel pressure to be dishonest to get what we want, and that's something I think that all people come up against at some point in our lives. So we'll say, oh yeah, I've been there, or oh yeah, I've done this thing, or I was there when this happened. You know, people who falsify their resumes, people who make things up about themselves just to sort of get the right kind of recognition that they want. You know, that's the kind of vibe we're looking at here. So here's the problem with misrepresenting yourself in this way, and that's because somebody else is always going to find out. So you're always going to be looking over your shoulder, kind of trying to figure out who saw you, who noticed that what you said was not true, and when is that other shoe going to drop? When are people going to find out about the way that you've been dishonest, right? It's a very insecure way to be, and the insecurity really shows in the willingness to be dishonest about yourself. So, you know, hopefully at some point we all grow in our level of personal security to where we feel like we can just tell the truth, you know, like, no, I wasn't there, or you know, no, I didn't, I don't have this qualification. And even if you have misrepresented yourself, the way to get out of a situation where you are being perceived as a liar is to come clean and tell the truth. So keep that in mind. And with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and turn this card over. Oh, I got the Elder of Fire. This corresponds, this is the fairy deck, the Four Hasha fairy deck by M.J. Cullinane. And this corresponds in tarot to the King of Wands. So the Elder of Fire is very much about mastery. You want to get a closer look at that picture. You see this, the elders in this deck all have white hair. And you see this person sort of on a throne of fire with a sun hovering over one hand and a spider web over the other. That's interesting symbolism there. So the Elder of Fire, or the King of Wands, is very much about mastery, and that's mastery of the fiery fiery impulse. So fiery impulses are, you know, those things we feel that get us moving in a certain direction, and that can be a certain joy, enthusiasm, restlessness. It can also be impatience. It can be frustration, irritability. There's irascibility. There's impetuousness, which is, you know, impetuousness is that drive to do what it is that pursue what it is that we desire, you know, let's say, at any cost, right? Right. So, but the elder fire represents mastery of those impulses. So, yes, we have an impulse that is impatient, or that is impetuous, or that is just very enthusiastic, but that doesn't mean we have to act solely on that impulse. Fire does bring us into action. It is about the actions that we take. But mastery of those impulses would be, yes, I have an impetuous desire to just do this thing that I want, to go get it at any cost. But as a person in mastery of that impulse, I understand that at any cost doesn't really work for me, and that I really need to assess what the cost is up front, and be willing to take the steps to get there in a straightforward way that that reflects my also desire to be honest, and to come by my winnings in an honest way. So Elder of Fire, yes, mastery of impatience, mastery of irascibility, mastery of that drive to get things however you want, and also mastery in terms of being able to share that inspiration, of being able to share that spark, that drive, that enthusiasm with other people, right? So part of the way we get things done when we have mastery of those fiery impulses is, rather than to become impatient with people and angry and try to do things on our own, because if you want something done right, or if you want something done fast enough, then as a fiery personality, that's what we would do, just be like, fine, I'm just going to do it on my own. Whereas in mastery, what we can do is we can share our enthusiasm, we can share our inspiration, we can share what it is about a thing, an action we want to take, a goal we want to achieve, that is inspiring to us, that is moving to us. And in our ability to share that light, to share that fire and that drive, then we're not alone. We're capable of achieving the goals that we want to achieve, without sort of walking all over other people, or going over the heads of the people that we that we serve. Because an elder is like a king, and a king is a ruler, but also a servant. You don't get to rule until you've earned it, right? So an elder of fire has learned the right to rule, has earned the right to rule by being able to share enthusiasm and joy and spark and drive, by being able to bring people into their way of action, by being able to sort of convince people, by sharing their inspiration, what is the right path to go down. So where do we see the Elder of Fire here on the page? Well, to me, the Elder of Fire would definitely be the sun. The sun is a fiery sign. The sun is a fiery planet. It rules the sign Leo, which is our fixed fire sign. Nothing really going on in Leo right now, or in Sagittarius. Down here in Aries, we have Venus moving on into Aries today. So that's interesting, because Venus in Pisces is more of a wide open vibe. We have to sort of mind and attend to our boundaries, because we can forget about them. We just want to love and embrace the whole world, especially in terms of those things we like, love, and can't get enough of. Venus in Aries is much more clear about what it wants, and understand that Venus is a part of you. Venus is a personal planet, so it's very much about those things you desire for yourself, that stuff you like, love, and can't get enough of, and how you would like to draw it in, attract it into your life, right? So Venus in Aries is, Aries is assertive, whereas Venus is attractive. It's not its strongest place to be, but it does give us strength in our capacity to say, okay, I desire this enough that that I can make a start on it. I can sort of go after it a little bit. I'm personally a Venus in Aries on my chart, so if you are a Venus in Aries, or if you know somebody who's a Venus in Aries, you know somebody who's really good at asking for what they want, especially in terms of like romance, in terms of just connection with other people. Venus but also just sort of being clear on what it is you'd like to receive. Easy to make decisions that way. Venus in Aries is very much like that. It's a receptor in pursuit, right? But what I was saying before was that the sun is moving on into Pisces today. So, the sun it was in Capricorn and then has been in Aquarius, very much influenced by Saturn, still somewhat conjunct to Saturn. So we are finishing up some work. We've got some stuff that we're working on out in our outer life that is important to us, but we're bringing it to a close at this time. We're moving on from the big inclusive sort of rational analysis driven perspective of Aquarius, where by inclusive we mean we want to support and uplift all the people, whereas in Pisces the inclusion is more about an emotional embrace or an intuitive and creative embrace, where we notice that everybody is connected and we desire to sort of draw on the inspiration of that collective connectedness. We can be very creative. We can be very emotionally inspired, and through emotional inspiration, we can also find some fire and drive to move forward. So we're going to have that sun moving on into Aquarius, and that's the final sign of the zodiac. The sun moves into Aquarius. We spend a month sort of in this sort of reflective, relaxed mode. We're a little more playful. We're a lot more imaginative and creative, even when it comes to the work we're doing in the world. We're going to spend a month there because Aries is the beginning. So we're gonna be very active once we get the sun into Aries in March, around March 20th, 21st. So enjoy the time that's coming up. Enjoy your time to reflect and think of the sun in Pisces as an opportunity to sort of integrate whatever mastery of fiery impulses you have earned at this point. Okay, we've gone through a whole sun cycle, almost a whole sun cycle here. We're completing a whole sun cycle here. So, look back on those things that you have done in the past year, the things you've taken action on, the things that have inspired you, made you feel enthusiastic, given you drive and impatience to take care of business. Look back on the things that you have learned about, sort of going after what it is that you desire. And especially with Venus moving on into Aries as the sun moves on into Pisces, that's going to be very interesting, because we're definitely going to be very much in pursuit of the things that we love on a personal level, and also in pursuit of the things that we love on a work, social, and civic level out in the world, including the work we're trying to do in the world. And one other thing I'll say is that Mars is in Gemini. Mars is the ruler of Aries, so it's a very fiery planet too. It's in Gemini, which is air. Air and fire make bigger fires, right? So, Mars is still in Gemini, still offering us opportunities for collaboration, okay, for planning, for thinking about the next year, for thinking about, for talking about, and that's going to be Sun in Pisces, like really talking, really getting together with the people who are our co-conspirators and collaborators, and, what should I say here? Whatever our plans are for the coming year, whatever our plans are going to be starting the beginning of spring, sort of imagining how that will unfold with our cohorts, with our co-conspirators, so that we can be ready to make a good start when the sun moves on into Aries a month from now. Okay, so taken together with the Seven of Swords here. Again, air and fire, this is more fire, right? And what we see is moving from a level where we are not in mastery of ourselves to a level where we are in mastery of ourselves, okay? If you have an impulse to take another person's intellectual property, if you have an impulse to take another person's thoughts, words, or plans for yourself to make use of them in some way that is dishonest, that misrepresents who you are and where you're coming from, that misrepresents somebody else's thoughts, words, and plans, then that impulse is not a mastery, okay? Because there's a drive here. There's a spark. There's a intellectual desire to get ahead. That this is why we misrepresent ourselves. This is why we are dishonest, or why we take other people's ideas or intellectual property and use them, is because we feel like, oh, well, they've got something really good going on. I think I'll try that out, right? Let me just take some of these great ideas that you have for yourself and see what I can do for myself with them, right? But again, this person looking over their shoulder, they're constantly wondering, hey, did anybody see me? Steal that truth, make it untrue. Did anybody notice how I misrepresented myself? And therefore, constantly wondering when you're going to be found out. So when you're in mastery of an impulse, and this impulse was just to sort of take what we want so that we can get ahead, right? When you're in mastery of such an impulse, you will understand that you're probably not getting yourself into a situation where you're going to be able to serve people very well. If you're constantly, covering up for the lie, building on the lie, having to remember what it is that you said, or how you have represented yourself to one person or another, then you are then sort of a slave to the untruth that you told, a slave to the problem that you created when you misrepresented yourself. And an elder of fire is not a slave to anybody, especially to their own impulses. A fiery person, and I can say this being a sun sign Aries as well, a fiery person definitely will look at, okay, here's where I am and here's where I want to be, or what I'd like to get to, right? And they will definitely look at that and say, okay, I see that the straightest line between me and that thing is to do something dishonest. Often, very often, the shortest distance between me and the thing I desire would be some sort of dishonest action, a theft, a lie, some kind of contrivance to get what I want without having to go through the steps to get it, right? But when we gain mastery of that, we understand that the theft or the lie or the misrepresentation is a step backward, right? It's not a step in the right direction. And it really disempowers us because, again, we're laboring under somebody else's idea. We're laboring under an illusion that we have put up, and that weighs down our ability to rule, to lead, to serve other people, or even to serve ourselves. So when we have that dishonest impulse, we have to remember that self-mastery is an important part of being human. It's an important part of learning how to be human in this world, right? And it's not always easy to be honest about what gives us joy, what gives us enthusiasm, what makes us happy. It's not always easy to just be like, I see what you all want to do, but that doesn't feel very good to me, and I'm driven to do this other thing, right? Sometimes we just feel like we have to misrepresent ourselves. Sometimes we feel like we have to go along to get along, or we have to say, oh, well, I can't do this because I'll be over here doing that, when it's really not true, right? So there is an element here that's just like, learn to tell the truth. Learn to stand your ground in honesty and say, this is what's true for me. This is what's real for me. This is what inspires me, what gives me joy, makes me enthusiastic, makes me want to get moving in the world. And I think that that's the way to lead us forward. And when you stand up and are honest about it, some people will laugh or turn away, and those are not the people that you're there to lead. And other people will say, yes, I want to fight alongside this person. I want to work alongside this person because, I trust them. I see that they're in mastery of that impulse to get what we want at any cost. I think that's all I have to say about it today, friends. Thank you so much for joining me. I truly appreciate your presence here. My name is Mel Rose, and I'll see you all back here tomorrow for more Astrology Today and Tarot.